I'm Bob Brill. He's Eric Kramer. Welcome to Kramer and Brill, an NFL fantasy football podcast. Each week, my co-host, former Bears and Lions quarterback Eric Kramer, and myself delve into your fantasy football choices, and hopefully, we help you out on your way to victory. And you can find out more by going to our website, kramerandbrill.com, or on my Bob Brill YouTube channel, or wherever you get your shows. We're going to be there. Recapping how we did last week. Well, the big pick of the week was Eric saying, if you have TJ Hawkinson and you don't start him, you're making a big mistake. Well, I made a big mistake. All he did was have 8 catches, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns. In some leagues, including mine, that's 40 fantasy points, an all-time Lion record at tight end. So I'm thinking back when I'm thinking about this, Detroit tight ends. I think you came in after Charlie Sanders, but who was your tight end in Detroit?
So when I first got there, it was 1990. We didn't have a tight end, but we did have Charlie Sanders as a tight end coach. I'm not sure how much that helped us, but anyway, Charlie was a great guy. And the next year, 92, Dan Henning came in as the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. And we had Rodney Holman and the ex-Bengal. And then we also had a guy, Ty Halleck, who was a converted linebacker at Michigan State, who was actually a pretty good tight end.
Well, that's interesting. No tight end. My first fantasy leagues, we started playing Stratomatic. Our first league we had, Charlie Sanders was my tight end. And I mean, he had some great years. He was averaging like 13 yards of reception. He was getting like 60 catches a year, which for back then was great for a tight end.
Exactly. Not a passing league is when he
exactly. And it was more blocking. And it was just great. I remember him so well. But looking at other games and other looks, we both liked Everett and Ertz, and both were strong. You liked Dameon Pierce, and all he did was rush for 131, a touch, 6 catches. I think he had a 75-yard run. I loved Jamal Williams, and he had 108 and 2 scores, as well as a long run. I think it was 51 yards. Wideouts, you liked Josh Reynolds in Detroit. He went off for 20 fantasy points, and I said, maybe stick with DK Metcalf one more week, and he was right on with 7 catches for 149. He didn't have any touches, but he still scored a bunch of fantasy points. Now, you love Goff. You've loved him all year, and he paid off big time. I think this may have been one of his greatest games ever, 378, 4 touchdown passes. We liked Cooper Kupp, and he was solid, and Cooper Rush, and Kenny Pickett. Well, the Kenny Pickett era has begun in Pittsburgh. What can you tell me about that?
Well, the Kenny Pickett era, yes, it did begin. Fantasy-wise, though, a lot of fantasy owners wish it didn't, especially if they had him. But with 3 picks, the numbers weren't there, and I'm not sure they will be right away. But you're right. I think the move has been made, and I think Pittsburgh fans of the Steelers and eventually Kenny Pickett fantasy owners are going to be happy about that.
Well, he was brought in to pick up some spark because Mitch Trubisky, we talked about this earlier, how Mitch Trubisky has always had this problem. Hey, there's a pocket in front of me, so let me run out of the pocket and move the pocket, and he got sacked 3 times in the first half. Plus he threw an interception. He didn't do bad otherwise, but that puts you in a bad situation. Then Pickett comes in, and the first pass he throws, they went deep. And you're hoping, okay, the kid's going to throw a touchdown pass. Of course, he didn't. It got tipped, got an interception. The other interception was at the end of the game, a Hail Mary. But then the second interception was the one that killed him, and it cost him the game. And he admitted later he wanted to throw it higher, and he just didn't. So
he's going to. I think I like, though, that over time he's going to work out just fine.
I do too.
And you mentioned Jared Goff, and I love how Jalen Rose, probably Detroit's most famous guy that grew up there, went on to have a great basketball career. He refers to Jared Goff now as Jared Montana.
Really?
And, he does.
That's interesting.
And I love the fact that that's the case because he's the one quarterback this year that I can think of that is playing at an extremely high level that nobody thought was going to happen coming into the season. And their offense has really picked up as well. And the fact that they have no defense tells me they're going to be scoring a lot of points every single week, sometimes in catch-up mode, which now they have the capability to do.
When they played Seattle, between them, they scored almost 100 points. So I think it's going to be fun. I think that makes me move Hawkinson into my starting lineup for until he's not, at this point. Injuries: Cordarrelle Patterson out for 4 games. Jamison Crowder out maybe for the season with a broken ankle. Bengals tight end Drew Sample on IR. Denver running back. This is a big one, and this is just what hurts really big is Javonte Williams torn ACL. He is out for the season. That elevates Melvin Gordon to an RB1. Tua out with a concussion. That's been a controversy. Giants Daniel Jones and Kenny Golladay day-to-day issues. Traylon Burks in Tennessee out for weeks with turf toe. Looking at those injuries, I think the most controversial one is going to be the Tua situation, and
that is the nation's number one topic of discussion today.
Yep.
Believe me, I think they just talked about it on Capitol Hill. In fact, they're going to send a bill that Tua cannot play, so that is out of the question moving forward. And I think what's happening now is, I've been in contact with a few people that are part of this process, and this is literally taken over. The NFL is very much in danger right now because America says so. And when you can't pass the eyeball test and you have a protocol that says you've got one, and then everybody in America can see that Tua doesn't belong in that game, and yet there he goes back in, that is a national concern. Nobody wants to see that. And so, yeah, I think that's Chris Collinsworth spoke directly to it the other night on Monday Night Football. And that is that the NFL as a business, this is in their best interest. And they are absolutely coming up with new protocols as we speak, as you know, and a lot of people now know, or maybe don't. The neurologist that was there on the sideline that allowed him to go back in for the Dolphins now got fired. And that's a lot of people are out of this one situation. This is going to change the landscape of football in America, not just the NFL.
All the way down to the level you're coaching now, because all the way down. How in the world, with all that's happened, how in the world does this happen in today's world?
I don't know. And that's why that I'm not a medical professional, but I, like everybody else, can see Tua did not belong in that game. Here we go 2 nights later, and where I'm coaching at Ventura College, there's not even a doctor on the sideline. And this situation happens. And this kid goes back in the game.
Wow. And
so that school, unlike the NFL, that school could potentially face a gazillion-dollar lawsuit.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. This goes down to youth sports.
Wow. It's going to be one to watch, that's for sure. And I know it's going to be, the NFL is definitely going to have to make some changes because, like you said, it's their business. And when you screw up that kind of business, some heads roll. And it already has started to happen. So let's get right to the games. Let's talk Thursday night. Colts and Broncos. Jonathan Taylor day-to-day with an injury. Keep an eye on him. And Melvin Gordon, a definite play in Denver with Williams out. Russell Wilson may be solid play here as well. And Pittman had a week off, or I should say an off week, but he's still better than most. So I would start him here.
I like your thought on Gordon regarding Williams being out for Denver because Gordon's already a good back, and now he's not sharing carries like that. And the only other player I'd even consider in this game is Denver's Cortland Sutton. He's a bigger, lengthier body. He's got some speed and a legitimate downfield threat with a legitimate downfield passer in Russell Wilson. If they would let that guy uncork 2 or 3 a game, he'd be back in consideration to play, I believe.
Giants, Packers, they're in London. It's the early game. Nothing to see on the Giants side of the ball. And for Green Bay, I'm still on the I'd trade Aaron Rodgers train, but I do like A.J. Dillon as well as Aaron Jones and Alan Lazard in this game. And Rodgers is playing well. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just it's time to trade him if you have him in a dynasty league.
Okay, let me just make sure I got this straight. When I heard you say there's nothing on the Giants side of the ball to consider here, did you not see Saquon Barkley have an incredible day against the Bears? Do his best Barry Sanders impersonation on what should have been a 10-yard loss on a screen pass that turned into a 13-yard or 12-yard gain and a first down. This guy is, even if you're not a Giants fan, this guy is a great running. He's probably the NFL's best running back right now. And that to me makes him. The Bears even. I know this isn't going to happen again, but the Bears made Daniel Jones look great as a runner. He scored 2 walk-in touchdowns from distance in that game, and that's hard. That won't happen again for him. Saquon Barkley, it will.
Okay, I'll stick with you on this one. And you were right so much on the other stuff last week. I'm going to have to stick with you. Steelers Bills. He may not be ready for prime time, but I'm good to give Pickett a chance here, and definitely George Pickens. He got more targets than Claypool and Deontay Johnson, which isn't saying a whole lot. So these 2 young players, along with Freiermuth, I mean, I really like that trio right now: Pickett, Pickens, and Freiermuth. And like I said, with Pickens and Pickett, I think that's going to be a long-term term, so to speak. So I'm really liking that.
I see some T-shirts being made at your house in the future. I'll
Yeah.
just say this. Please give me all things Buffalo Bills against whoever they're playing. And just this week, it happens to be the Steelers, but without TJ Watt. And
That's
so
true.
give me Josh Allen first, second, third, along with whoever else he's either handing the ball off to or throwing to. The Bills, I think, even though despite they didn't have a great statistical game last week, they are obviously right there in terms of the AFC. They're the best thing going right now. And I think you could make an argument they're the best team in the NFL.
And, McKenzie and Singletary are 2 guys to like here, especially with the Steeler defense not playing very well. I mean, I like McKenzie over Singletary this week, but either one of them I think is a play.
And Stephon Diggs is a must. For sure.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a given. Chargers and Browns, Gerald Everett, definite play this week, along with the regulars. I like Chubb, and I like Njoku, too.
And Herbert is a for sure, talking about Justin. And when does Keenan Allen get back, by the way? Because
he's
until
out.
that happens, they don't have a receiver. But until he is back, I'm playing Austin Guitar Hero Eckler every week.
Texans Jags, looks like Houston has found their RB with a Dameon Pierce, and Brandon Cooks is solid, as is Davis Mills. Davis Mills is playing very well. I think the whole league's kind of overlooked him. Jamal Agnew is a good partner to Christian Kirk, who's always a play, and 9 targets on the day on last Sunday.
Well, Houston's winless, and I think they're the only team that hasn't yet won in the league. I think they're 3-1, and I think that defense is going to be the remedy Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars offense is looking for. If Lawrence, I like Lawrence for really the matchup, and James Robinson to me is a solid weekly start. That guy's special. And if you don't have him yet, and it's probably too late if you don't, but if you don't and he's out there, get him.
Bears Vikings, Mooney and Herbert came through, but maybe not against the Vikings. Still, they're worth at least a flex. Jefferson and Thielen both plays for the Vikes.
Herbert, I'd ride with for the Bears, and they are so committed to the running game and are very good at it. And then he's not going to be sharing carries with David Montgomery right now. Justin Fields, however, well, let me just say this. Justin Fields adds to that running game. He's part of the reason why the running game is as good as it is. And that's, unfortunately for him, the only thing he's really bringing to the table right now, but he is bringing it. And I think that as for Mooney, though, he's very talented. The problem for him is that it's the guy throwing the ball to him. Now, they did, both of them improved. I wouldn't say Mooney improved. Mooney's just good, period. But I think Fields improved to a degree. But to the degree I'm talking about is like a C-. Yeah. So he's still missing throws and missing reads. And it's just, I think it's going to be hard for Mooney to have any sort of consistency, really. I mean, it's unfortunate because he and Cole Kmet are 2 potential weapons this team has that right now, unfortunately, in the passing game, they're not being able to utilize.
Lions Patriots. So will the Lions compete against New England? Probably not, but you have to give Goff, Hawkinson, and Williams their due for the upcoming week. They're all good, solid starts. Reynolds, he's worth a look, but Tom Kennedy in a good game, but he's a hold for the moment. Too early for Swift, Brown, and Clark because they are all out at this point.
How about the new kid on the block there in New England, Bailey Zappi? I'm not sure the Patriots, other than, well, I would say even with him, I don't think the Patriots have a guy this year, at least in my mind, that's fantasy worthy. But I think that Detroit Lions, on the other hand, I mean, that's a top to bottom roster that starts with Jared Goff. And if that's the only guy you have, play him. If you don't have him, play whoever he's throwing to. So guys like St. Brown and Hawkinson, as we mentioned before, are two guys that just right off the bat, fly off the top of my head. Plus the running back they've got now with is it Swift that's in, right? The Jamal Williams.
No, Swift is hurt. Reynolds is in. I mean, Williams is in, and
Williams,
Reynolds
right.
will back up. Yeah.
Yeah. So offensively, the Patriots aren't stopping anybody right now, and certainly not the Lions.
Well, the thing about the Patriots too is Mac Jones is out again this week. Probably will be for 3 weeks, which means Hoyer is in, and Hoyer is probably available in almost every league. If you have if it's I don't know bye weeks yet, but if he's still available in a bye week and Jones is still out, that may be somebody you want to consider because he's a guy that's going to get you 15, 18, 20, maybe 22 points on a good day. Seahawks Saints, I'm loving Geno Smith. Where the heck did he come from this year? Rashad Penny and DK Metcalf, I think they're all solid starts. Saints, I'd play Ola, I'd play Murray, and even Andy Dalton. Taysom Hill did get a rushing touchdown last week, but again, he's one of those spot guys that you get in there when you can, and if you can't, you can't. That's the way it goes with him.
I hate to be the bearer of not bad news, but just coming back down to earth. The Seahawks aren't playing the Lions defense again this week.
That's true.
Aaron Glenn,
because the Saints are my defense.
Talk about Aaron Glenn getting fired over that is on the rise. And so the Saints, however, are a much different brand of defense. And I think that on neither team do I see someone worth starting here. I know your Metcalf is your guy, but I think against the Saints, it's going to be a different Geno Smith. It's going to be a different pass rush he's going to face. You're not going to see a bunch of yards after catch. This, like I said, this is completely different Saints defense. And unfortunately, the talent that the Saints have on offense is phenomenal. They just don't have Jameis Winston, unfortunately, is not panning out so far in terms of a fantasy quarterback.
And he's probably going to be out this week. So Andy Dalton's probably going to start, and he's serviceable. I mean, I found that out last week. So I think, he's one of those guys that if you need a quarterback and you don't have one for the week because of injuries or whatever, backup's not, you're not sure he's okay out there. Latavius Murray came alive, which I was really surprised to see. I'm really happy to see because, with Kamara out and them just not being able to really move the ball, and Murray came in and did a great job, I thought, in that game, especially that they're playing in London. It's a big difference when you get the time changes and everything. Dolphins
I know
Jets.
About that. One year we played Dallas there.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of falling asleep before my normal hour.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So I then for that whole week was up. I was actually, when I should have been sleeping, was up watching Benny Hill till 3, 4 in the morning.
I had a friend who traveled a lot, and he taught me one thing. And this is a bit of advice for anybody who's listening. If you're traveling and you're going to a different time zone, such as Europe or Asia, when you get there, you go immediately on to their time. In other words, if you've been up for 12 hours and it's 2:00 in the afternoon, you go to life like it's 2:00 in the afternoon, and you go to bed at 10:00 in the evening, their time. And almost 100% of the time, that solves the jet lag situation. It just works. It really does. If you decide, no, I'm going to go to sleep because I've been up 12 hours or 15 hours, you're going to be dead in the water, as you found out.
As I found out, had there been a party that I could have gone to and been made to go to, then you're right. I would have been perfect.
Dolphins Jets. Jets are not that good, but Zach Wilson did have a good week against Pittsburgh. Corey Davis and Breece Hall, I think they're both ready to go. Dolphins, hard to figure. Teddy Bridgewater is manageable if Tua is out, but I do like Mostert and I do like Tyreek Hill this week.
And Tua is out, as we talked about before. And, I think, as I'm looking, I don't see on either team, really, with him out, I don't see on either team a guy to start this week fantasy-wise because neither one of them have, I don't know, nobody jumps out at me as that's the guy. So
Falcons Buccaneers. Falcons look good on the ground with backups Caleb Huntley and Tyler Algier. I think that's how you pronounce it. With Patterson out, both will be hot on the waiver wire this week. So one will command some respect and carries. Drake London is getting targeted, and that's a good thing. This rookie is really something special, I think.
I agree with you, but again, they need a guy that can pull the trigger. And for the Bucs, if Mike Evans isn't throwing the ball 45 times this week, something's wrong. And even with, they have nobody. Like Brady's even fallen off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And so Mike Evans truly is their only, fantasy potentially good player.
Titans and Commanders, I like Robert Woods, who's finally getting more involved in the offense. For the Commanders, while Curtis Samuel is the go-to guy in Washington, that's what I like there. I'm certainly not going to say start Wentz. This guy is just so much out of step with anything, it seems, and he may have a good game here and there, but I would never take a chance on Wentz anymore.
For me, this game centers around one guy, King Henry.
Yep.
Next.
Niners and Panthers, McCaffrey, as long as he holds up, and I like DJ Moore here.
I'll play the one guy here, which has kind of been the one-of-one category, Deebo Samuel.
Yes.
He's just such a unique offensive weapon, and they are obviously motivated to get him the ball anytime he steps out of the locker room. And I think the other guy you got to think about two. One's George Kittle, and I think the other one that a lot of people overlook is Brandon Ayuk. And over these last couple of years, he's really developed into a solid, consistent player. Also, this is a team that loves blocking downfield, which is what springs Deebo Samuel and Ayuk both.
Well, I'll tell you that play, the one for the touchdown yesterday was a Barry Sanders style highlight reel shot. Where he comes out of the backfield, catches the ball, spins off a couple of guys, they miss tackles, he breaks away, cuts across the field, and runs around everybody for what I think it was I forget how many yards it was, but it was a huge touchdown.
70 something. I'm just saying, like, they had guys come out of the locker room sprinting downfield to get blocks.
Yeah. Eagles, Cardinals. Eagles on a roll despite an off day for Hurts. Miles Sanders is producing well, so we'll go there, as well as A.J. Brown and Goddard. Cardinals, Marquise Brown and Ertz, I think they're still solid plays if you have.
I'm with you. I think as a team, the Eagles rebound in terms of stats. Obviously, they won last week, but I think stat-wise was a bad week for them. As for the Cardinals, their team's wobbly, but Kyler Murray is going to put up numbers, and they're going to be throwing, and as soon as they come out of the locker room, the ball goes up. And chances are they're going to be down, and at some point they're going to be turning the lights on in terms of the aerial show. And I think Kyler Murray becomes, they don't design a lot of runs for him anymore. And I think that might change here shortly. But with or without that, he's going to make some things happen down the field, whether they call him for him or not.
Cowboys Rams are playing at SoFi. Cooper Rush and CeeDee Lamb are definite says, but I would stay away from the running backs, and I rarely would say stay away from both Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. But I'm saying it this week, and neither are getting enough work for volume yards, and neither is doing much else. When it comes to the Rams, well, you pick them.
Well, the Rams are currently nursing a hangover, and by that I mean a Super Bowl hangover. They got absolutely annihilated physically last night against the 49ers. And the Cowboys D couldn't come at a worse time the way the 49ers just enveloped Matthew Stafford last night. I think that no matter what, Stafford looks for and finds Cooper Kupp. He'll target that guy a minimum of 10 to 15 times.
Yeah.
So there's one guy on the Rams roster that's going to come out with some stats. It's going to be Cooper Kupp, probably with a touchdown as well.
Bengals, Ravens, Justice Hill is fighting an injury. So if he's sitting, J.K. Dobbins is a solid start. Otherwise, neither is. For the same reason we don't like the Cowboy running backs. T. Higgins, questionable again. But last time he was designated as questionable, he caught 7 passes for 124 yards and a touchdown. So you got to keep an eye on him.
Well, and so now it's 2 weeks in a row. In my opinion, Burrow is back. Jamar Chase has yet to have his breakout game. But who better than one of the NFL's league's worst defenses? Hard to say that. I know it's got to be hard to hear it, but it's weird to say it in the Baltimore Ravens. And, I look no further really than Lamar Jackson, who, between him and Josh Allen put on a highlight reel at times, but neither one of them came out of that game with great stats. And I think the Ravens are going to turn it up a notch this week against Cincinnati.
Raiders and Chiefs, Derek Carr is too unreliable right now, but Adams and Jacobs are totally worth playing no matter what, whoever's playing quarterback. Mac Hollins remains an up-and-coming player. I'm not sure if he's any much more than a flex, if that, at this point. Chiefs look for Juju and Kelsey, and it looks like Edwards-Helaire is back in the saddle. Not sure about Isaiah Pacheco just yet, but he'll be a hot pickup on the waiver wires this week based on his performance last week.
And I think along with a lot of other NFL onlookers, are very sure about Isaiah Pacheco. I've never seen anything like that guy. I mean, he does it all. He runs, he catches, he returns. He can't wait for the next point of contact with whoever it's against. And I think he's an explosion in terms of stats just waiting to happen on that team. The problem for him is they're loaded with other guys, not just like him, but other options that Mahomes can go to. But I think he's the one guy that over the course of this season, he's only a rookie. So over the course of this season is going to develop into kind of maybe the Deebo Samuel type of guy that the Chiefs, that Tyreek Hill was becoming.
You took the words out of my mouth. It was like, problem with him is they have too many guys that want the ball that are really, really good, and Andy Reid has a great playbook, and the biggest playbook, I think, out there, especially in the red zone. But, you got all these guys, and it's like, I think Terry Bradshaw, I heard him speak once in Hawaii, and he talked about when he had Stallworth and he had Swan and he had Franco, and I forget who else he had at the time. And he said, they get back in the huddle, and this when you're surrounded by good guys, they all want the ball. Right. And how do you control all that? Okay, I'll give and if a guy drops a pass, you got to go right back to him, to build up his confidence. So you got all that going, and it's like, okay, it's the bad thing about being rich, where to spend all your money. So, and there you have it, another edition of Kramer and Brill. Find out more by going to our website, kramerandbrill.com, or on my Bob Brill YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcast. For my friend and colleague, Eric Kramer, I'm Bob Brill, and we'll see you next time.